Strong rumours doing the rounds by reliable sources that the new manager is going to be Jack Wilshere.
I don't think it's a safe appointment, but I do think it's an exciting appointment.
He's 10 years younger than me. I was having an existential crisis about it today.
Kind of getting excited by this appointment.
Your manager needs to be the right time, the right club, the right person.
And I can't think there are too many better managers to have taken something from than Arsene Wenger.
He's probably got everything in his kit bag to be a good manager. And that's the Luton way, isn't it?
If this guy can't get us playing through midfield as one of the best midfielders this country's had in the last decade or so, I don't think anyone can.
Do you know what? The only thing I want now, I just want a bit of fun. I want fun to return.
Dream, Jimbo. Allow yourself to dream, man. It's been another roller coaster week in the life of Luton Town, hasn't it? And alongside me to look back on it, I've got the Lutonian journalist James Cunliffe, and Trust chairman Paul Stevens is making his debut on the podcast. Gents, never dull being a Town fan.
Surely not.
What he said.
We'll look back at everything right after this intro. Hello everyone, welcome along to another episode of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast, the award-winning, longest-running Luton Town podcast, having scooped bronze in the Best Football League podcast category in the Football Content Awards. Once again this season, the show is in association with Solid, providing opportunities, provisions and assistance so our academy can fulfil their potential. As I mentioned prior to the intro, we're going to look back at the week that was and look ahead to what could be a really exciting time in the life of Luton Town. And alongside me, I've got Jimbo as always, and the Trust chairman, Paul Stevens, is with us. If you looked at Jimbo's Twitter page, we've said that we're going to get Paul's views on the Trust and on Solid. Since he sent that tweet out, it looks like Jack Wilshere is almost a dead cert runner for the management job. So what we're going to do, we're going to talk about that in this podcast, and then we'll get Paul's views on another podcast that will come out to you either Tuesday morning or Wednesday morning. So we haven't put that in the can. We're just kind of kicking it down the road just slightly because obviously Wilshere is pretty big news. But before we get there, Jimbo, you wasn't sure if Matt would be sacked, was you, when we were last together? I think, although I put the case forward that there probably wasn't much life left in that, you wasn't sure that it would happen straight away, but it did. So what's your reaction?
Yeah, well, I wasn't sure because of the, evidence of what we've seen before and that they tend to give these things time. But I think really, if you look at the results, they speak for themselves, and the reaction of the fans, you were probably right on that you can't carry on when it's like that. I suppose the only thing is that I hope we haven't become a club that thinks, oh, if we don't like somebody, we're just going to chant, you're getting sacked in the morning and out goes the manager, that sort of thing. I think with this new one, all we can do is give him time. But with Bloomfield, it's a shame because I thought I got on well with him okay as a bloke, and it wasn't always like he came across in interviews when the cameras weren't on, so to speak. But and I guess he'll learn from that. But the wins weren't good. In this club that had such high expectations, 5 defeats and 5 wins and sitting mid-table is not good enough, really. And you go to Stevenage and get, it was a 2-0 trounced, really, wasn't it? It was, and I don't think there's many way back from that. Other managers have gone to Stevenage and come a cropper for Luton. It's just not something that people tolerate, I suppose. So, well, I didn't think that they would do it. They did. And it feels like a million years ago now, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. Such is the life of football. As I said in the instant reaction that I did, fair play to the board. They could have kicked this can down the road a little bit further. They didn't. They've realised their mistakes. They've learnt from their mistakes, such as the sort of storyline of the season.
I suppose that's one of the things, isn't it? You were calling for that they need to learn from their mistakes, and so many other people have out there. They've said that. So that's one thing what they have done is learn from the mistakes of dragging it along so far with Edwards. I mean, he had credit in the bank, I suppose, is the argument, didn't he? Because he got us to the Premier League. But when it's not working, as it hasn't really, you can only be a sort of work in progress for so long. And you guys in the stands who pay the money, you'd had enough of it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a work in progress, you've got to progress, haven't you? Paul, let's bring you in, obviously, with your fan hat on for this particular episode of the podcast. I'll get you to put your trust chairman hat on when we do the next one later in the week. The season just never got going, did it?
No, I think I'm like most fans. It's been really disappointing, both in terms of results, but also in terms of performance. I can't think of many games over the last 12 months that I've come away excited and entertained. Sometimes, fans will put up with the odd scrape 1-0 or a 1-1 away draw, but consistently we haven't played well. And I feel just on the Matt Bloomfield, I feel that the club had to change manager to try and get the best out of the squad they got, because we can't really bring any players in until January, and try to motivate the crowd to get behind the team.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly how I saw it. Matt's a good guy. There's no doubt about that. No one on this podcast has ever suggested otherwise. But ultimately, we don't pay money to see good guys. We pay money to see our team win. And there were fewer and fewer signs that team was going to win as regularly as it needed to under him. And we've moved on, and fair play. Listen, if you thought that the manager was the problem, Jimbo, Tuesday night painted in neon lights that it ain't just the manager that's the issue at this football club, because I don't even think I'm telling the truth by saying we stunk the gaff out. We were worse than that at Cambridge. Listen, Virtue Trophy, is everyone up for it? Blah, 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 blah. Well, one, they should be. But two, whatever game of football you're playing, you cannot be that bad. That was terrible.
Yeah, so I think it laid bare that the problems run a bit deeper than that. It's confidence, it's knowing what they need to do, it's executing it, it's whether the players wanted it enough. It didn't look like it, did it? That's, we said after the Blackpool game that they came back, that, you can't say that they weren't there trying to fight for Bloomfield, but it was nothing there. Like, they played okay to start with, got the goal, but I mean, it was a lucky goal. It bounced in front of Matt Bloomfield. So they had many more better chances as far as I'm concerned. And obviously the goal that they scored is a kid in full confidence. We contrast that against the Luton team, and there was none of that. But then the second half was just an absolute disaster. And, if it is Wilshere, which we expect it to be, and by the time you watch this, it probably might be, he's got a job on his hands, really.
Yeah, that was the other thing about the Bloomfield sacking, wasn't it? At least they waited a few hours to allow our podcast to have some airtime before they done it. Yeah, Paul, you were stood right behind me at Cambridge, and we couldn't believe what we were watching in that second half, could we?
No, it was as desperate as I've seen the Town play over the many years I've supported them. And I think James Shea quote afterwards told us a lot, didn't it? I think he said the players feel like they're playing against 13. So as a fan, I don't really understand how, being 10 games into the season, players can go to that point. So, I know a lack of confidence, but why are they so unconfident to a fact that a player comes out in public and says he feels like they're playing against 13? So, I do feel if it is Wiltshire or it's somebody else, as a fan base, we do need to get behind the team and show them we can be the 12th man.
Yeah, we'll come on to the new man shortly. There's a strong rumour doing the rounds that a former Arsenal and England, and indeed academy product here, is the new man. But before we do, we've got to touch on the King. The King might be dead, but he was alive again on Tuesday night, because he came off the bench with about half an hour to go, didn't he, Pedigree Campanzu? Bit of a party pooper not starting him. I mean, literally every Luton fan went there to watch him, I think. I don't think too many went there to watch the game of football. But when he came on, standing ovation. And when he came over at the end, an even louder standing ovation. He deserves more than that, and in time he'll get more than that. But it was good for fans to get the chance to show their respects to a guy who carried us right the way through the leagues from bottom to top.
Yeah, I mean, first opportunity to do that, and I suppose that they made 10 changes made it even worse, didn't it? That Cambridge made 10 changes, didn't put him in the start.
I was trying not to mention that, Jimbo. It was bad enough as it was without us bringing that up into the equation as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Cambridge B team, pretty much, wasn't it? And it wasn't a Luton B team, although it shouldn't be. But let's forget about that. Let's try and brush that one under the carpet as far as we can. I don't think you can to totally, but Pelly coming on is we talked about on this podcast so many times. He's an absolute legend of this football club, history maker. No players ever done that. What he's done before, playing for the same club, going to non-league to Premier League, and maybe no one ever will. You've got other teams and other clubs. You've got Jamie Vardy, who did, wonders. Didn't do that, but and Wrexham possibly. But I don't think you'll ever get that again. I'll be very surprised. Maybe it won't be in our lifetimes, but. He was the heartbeat of the squad, the training ground, and I lost the count the amount of times that I went to press conferences at the Brace, and somebody had to open the door to the next room and tell Peddy to shut up because you could hear him through the walls, because he was that jovial. But I guess it was an indication of sort of what Luton have lost really, because the team didn't show any sort of any drive that he had, particularly in the lower leagues, to get us to the Championship. It didn't have any of that, and we're missing those characters, I guess. And somehow we've got to try and find them or build them up to be somewhere near that. They have got characters in the squad, but they're just not showing on the pitch.
No, they're not there, that's for sure. And once we conceded on Tuesday night, we caved in a little bit, didn't we? Not all doom and gloom in the Virtue Trophy. We can still get out of our group in that. If we beat Brighton under 21s, we are through whatever happens elsewhere in the group. So we are still in control of our destiny. We're not out of that. And hopefully that's something that will happen. Let's turn the attentions then to, what's about to happen, Paul. Rumours are doing the rounds on Sunday evening as we record this. Strong rumours doing the rounds by reliable sources that the new manager is going to be Jack Wilshere. It seems to be over the weekend that the manager was either going to be Wilshere or Richie Wellens from Leyton Orient. I don't know how much Richie Wellens winning 4-0 on Saturdays kind of scuppered those plans, but it does look like it's Wilshere. It also looks like Steve Bould is highly likely to be his assistant. What's your initial reaction to that?
I think it's an exciting, appointment. I think it's not the one that I expected. I expected it to be a manager with some experience to come in and hopefully change our fortunes. But the more I think about Jack Wilshere, especially if he comes in with an older, more established coach, which I know Steve Bould's got a good reputation as a coach, that's an exciting prospect because he'll come in fresh. He's got no baggage from our previous performance. He's got no history with the club. So perhaps that's what we need, somebody to come in with fresh ideas, invigorate and motivate the squad, and hopefully give us a style of play that Luton fans can get behind, because we have lost that attacking and intensity that Luton Town has built on over the last few years. So I think it's an exciting, I don't think it's a safe appointment, but I do think it's an exciting appointment.
Yeah, I don't think it's safe either. What is a safe appointment? I guess a safe appointment's a Graham Alexander that is plying his trade well at the top end of this league, or a Richie Wellens who got Leyton Orient to the playoffs last year, and in theory, if he can get Leyton Orient to the playoffs, he should be able to get Luton to do that in much the same fashion. Jimbo, I've had lots of time to sort of think this one through. Wilshere and Wellens have been flip-flopping as favourites for the in the market. I mean, John Brady had a little appearance once that interview went out with the Independent on Thursday, but don't think there were ever any strong vibes that he was actually going to get it. It was just a perfectly well-timed interview on his behalf. But Wilshere's been in the frame since last Monday, really. I was on Three Counties and the guy was reading out the list of names and Wilshere was on it then. We kind of glossed over it because I think most people at the time were thinking this needs to be a steady Eddie, a ship turner, as we mentioned last week. But the more I think of it, the more I'm kind of getting excited by this appointment. Let's get it right. This is one of the best footballers England have produced in this current generation. And had he not have been injured, you'd have been talking about him in the same breath of Lampard, Gerrard, And even going back a little bit further, Paul Gascoigne, he had that much technique to him. Only injury held him back. This is a guy who in his playing career won the FA Cup twice, played in Europa League semi-finals, got 30-odd caps for England, been to major tournaments for England. This is a guy who as a player, whilst he may not have the sort of CV in terms of honours of those three I just mentioned, is a mighty fine footballer. And if he translates even 10% of that ability to this squad, we could be going places under this guy.
Yeah, well, he's going to command respect, isn't he, because of those achievements that you've just reeled off, and in living memory, some of the players that Luton have will have grown up watching him. Some of them are Arsenal fans. They would have grown up watching him and liking him. Certainly, most of them should be English fans, and they too would have seen that. So, in that sense, it could galvanise the players. And when we were talking about that Cambridge game just a minute ago, so that it didn't look like they had anything about them as a team, then that may be the case. But as in terms of experience, we've got no evidence to base it on. He's a couple of games as a caretaker boss for Norwich, and other than that, good vibes about him as a academy coach, as a youth coach. This being his first team managerial job. It was never going to be a steady Eddie. I don't know why people were. I mean, certainly the people were banging on about Dyche. I mean, I don't know what dimension you live in. I mean, he's being touted as the next Forest boss, and he's always, he'll always want to stay in the Premier League because that's where he's been largely. I mean, there has to be some realisation that we're a League One football club, and at this present time, a mid-table League One football club that's had a series of terrible results. It was never going to be a steady Eddie, not least because the examples that we have since Nathan first walked through the door is the profile that they've always gone after is a youngish, not as young as Wilshere, by the way. He's 10 years younger than me. I was having an existential crisis about it today because this is what it's going to be like now. Managers are going to be younger than me, but largely young managers, coaches that have had a decent pedigree that want their first go at management. And that's been the profile that they've gone after. And it's perfectly understandable if you wanted somebody to come in who's had experience of these things, and maybe Wellens was that character in this moment in time. But I think he was always going to be up there in the reckoning for those reasons of what they've been looking for. And the thing is, it's just a risk. It's a massive risk, isn't it? It could be brilliant. It could go wrong. But if it goes wrong, there's such a sort of division among the fans at the moment that it will all come crashing down on the people that make the decisions, because they've got to get this right.
I was looking the other day, Paul, through some of the players that Jack Wilshere's been a teammate of in his career. Thierry Henry, Patrick Vieira, Wayne Rooney with England, John Terry with England, quite a lot of that Arsenal side, Robin van Persie, etc., etc. I mean, the players that he's played with are brilliant players, and you must take something from that being in the dressing room with those. I know you played football to a semi-pro level. You take something from the players that you play with, but you also take something from the managers you play under. And I can't think there are too many better managers to have taken something from than Arsene Wenger. He knew the wood from the trees, didn't he? And if he's got even a percentage of what Arsene Wenger had about him, then he's given him a good grounding.
Yeah, I'd agree. I thought you were then talking about the players we were going to bring in the transfer window there. But no, I think you do learn from experience. As James has said, we can't look back at a track record of him managing, but everything else lines up that, I understand he's got good people skills. So if he's got good people skills, I'm sure he was a highly qualified coach. They're really the two skills I would say you need to manage a football club. And you've listed off there people that have been best in trade, the Arsenal manager and the players he's played with. So if he's picked up, just a little bit from those people, he's probably got everything in his kit bag to be a good manager. And that's the Luton way, isn't it? You go back to Nathan. I hadn't heard of Nathan Jones when we appointed him. At least, Jack Wilshere has got a playing career, whereas Nathan Jones' playing career was quite average, really. So once again, I think it's exciting. I say it's not a safe appointment, but even if we had appointed a safe manager, who's to say they would come in and be successful at Luton? Wellens, with respect, has been sacked from, I think, Doncaster and a couple of other clubs. Perhaps Orient's the right fit for him. I believe, in life, your manager needs to be the right time, the right club, the right person. So perhaps for Wiltshire, those three things would align. It's the right club at the right time for Jack Wilshere. So fingers crossed it works out, because we're all Luton fans and we want to get out of this league, don't we? Division 1, I've watched a lot of Division 1 football this year, and, we're only 3 points off the playoffs. If he can come in and motivate this squad, we could make the playoffs this year, so I'm excited by that.
We definitely need out of this league, Jimbo. I watched some of the games on Saturday, and good grief. If I weren't watching them on telly, I'd have cried. At least on telly, you can turn it over, because some of them were absolute. I mean, obviously we've got some games coming up that we're going to preview, so I kind of kept an eye on some of the games that were involving those teams, Northampton and Stockport in particular, and I thought we were bad. And then I watched these games, and I'm like, good grief, it's not us bad. It's this level that's bad. It's horrendous. So yeah, Jack, if it is you, get us out of this division, please, as soon as possible. I mentioned those names, though. Robin Van Persie, Thierry Henry in particular. I mentioned Wayne Rooney as well. But those first two that he played with at Arsenal under Arsene Wenger, Jimbo, you've got Henry, who took France to the Olympic final, France under-21s, that is, to the Olympic final. And you got Robin Van Persie, who's currently managing it in the Champions League with Feyenoord, who I caught some of their game the other night, and they were playing some nice football as well. They've obviously all learnt under Wenger, and they've obviously taken all of these credentials from him, and that's exciting, because ultimately this geezer was the manager of the Invincibles, wasn't he? He's the manager of side that got to the Champions League final, won countless FA Cups, won Premier Leagues. It's a great guy to learn from, and if that is the case, that he's imparted some of his skills into Wilshere, and Wilshere will modify that himself, because he was like I said earlier, a classy central midfielder who loved having the ball. I can't believe we've got a guy who's going to lump it from back to front and to hell with the consequences. This is a guy who's going to use the midfield, much like Matt tried to do, but never actually succeeded. If this guy can't get us playing through midfield as one of the best midfielders this country's had in the last decade or so, I don't think anyone can.
Well, yeah, I suppose that's one of the things and the criteria that they've probably looked at in terms of the playing style. We all want exciting football. It's just ifs and buts. We just have no way of really quantifying whether he can do it at the moment. And I would say to people, like, you've got to get behind him and see if he can, but we just don't know at the moment. But I guess it's been such a tough 18 months, really, isn't it? It's really tough that my expectations are not high for anything. It's not just because of Wilshere. It would have been any man that come in whatsoever. My expectations are quite low at this point, because I know that it probably only seems about two and a half weeks ago that Gary Sweet said the ambition was to get promoted, minimum playoffs and automatics. And I'm not even thinking about that now. Do you know what? The only thing I want now, I just want a bit of fun. I want fun to return. Whether we get there or not, I guess that they'll still say that that's the aim, but I just settle for a bit more excitement and not just the dread that they're just going to concede goals all the time. And that's where I am with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think fun will come naturally, won't it? It's a Luton, well, not a Luton boy, because obviously he wasn't born in Luton, but he came through Luton's academy right at the very start. So there's a sort of a storyline to get behind, Paul, with regards to that he's one of our academy products. I know he left the club when he was 9 years old, but even so, there's still some sort of attachment that fans can get behind. And if he plays a style of football like he played, then fans will definitely get behind that. And, I see people out there saying he could be our Frank Lampard, and let's hope he could be our Frank Lampard, because obviously he's doing great things getting Coventry to the top of the Championship right now. But and obviously that might be down the line. But if he is our Frank Lampard, then we're going to get behind him very, very quickly. We need to get behind him anyway, like you say, but it'll be an awful lot easier if we're playing football like that Coventry side, because they're blowing teams away left, right and centre.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. And picking up what James was just saying, I think in sport it is hard to play when expectations are high, because, that's why there's FA Cup shocks, because expectations for a Premier League team playing a Division 2 team, the expectations of the Premier League team is they're going to win. So if teams don't turn up right when there's high expectations, shocks happen. So I think we've got to sort of turn it round, and we've got to, as a club, supporter base, we've got to take on this expectations and let's turn it back into hope, really, because when Luton Town were going through the leagues, as a fan, did I really think we were going to get into the Championship? I probably did. I hoped to, and I believed we would, but I never believed we were going to get in the Premier League. Every fan hopes their team will get there. So I think if we can either learn to play with these expectations on our shoulders, or as a fan base, if we could just, as James said, if we could just hope for the playoffs and take that pressure away from everyone, I think we'll do better. And then we just go with hope rather than these high expectations, which are like a weight on your shoulder when you're playing for sport.
I guess at least Wilshere's going to know how to deal with that, isn't he? I mean, you don't play for Arsenal and have no expectation on you. I mean, every season you go into as Arsenal, you're expected to win the league, or certainly his Arsenal side were, or win a trophy of some kind. So, he'll know that. Not just Wilshere, but Steve Bould. I mean, when we were growing up, Steve Bould was part of the best defence in this country, alongside Tony Adams, that Arsenal side in the 90s that you could not break that down for love nor money. And if he can impart some of that on our defence, if it is Bould, the rumours around Wilshere are an awful lot stronger than the rumours of Bould, although 2 and 2 together, given that they played with each other, probably might equal 4, albeit Steve Bould's at QPR and will need to come out of there first of all. But if he can come in and sort our defence out, and Wilshere can come in and link the midfield to the attack, I've maintained it all along, and I know Tuesday night told me that I was a liar, but I'll maintain it anyway. This squad is more than good enough to get out of this division.
Well, that's on paper, yes, but at the moment we're not seeing the evidence of that, and I really only have to go on that, the evidence of it. And I thought that at the beginning of the season, and I guess some way through it,
Dream, Jimbo. Allow yourself to dream, man.
Like I've always said, I will always look at the evidence, try and assess it on that. Can it get better? Yes. Yeah, it would have to, but it has to improve everywhere. The defence don't know what they're doing, and Cambridge blew holes in the argument that they're a solid back line there. I mean, those goals were Sunday league schoolboy stuff, and then the strikers ain't scoring. I mean, they've all scored one, haven't they? But they're not getting the chances. They're not scoring. So there's so much work that needs to go on. If he comes in and it turns out into gold straight away, everybody will be happy. But at the minute, like I say, my expectations are just that I want fun.
Yeah, I think you're going to get fun. Yeah, you said about who we might bring in January, Paul. I mean, Thierry Henry wouldn't need to. We wouldn't need to wait until then, would we? He's a free agent. He can come in tomorrow. As far as he's concerned. The one thing that does inspire me, though, Paul, with Jack Wilshere, is I look at this Arsenal side now, and there's an awful lot of young teenage footballers in it that Mikel Arteta has brought through, but they've all encountered Jack Wilshere when Wilshere was the under 18 coach at Arsenal. Obviously, the 15-year-old Max Dowman's recently made his Premier League debut. Ethan and Nwaneri's another one. Miles Lewis-Skelly, those latter two have both played for England. He's obviously touching good players in and making them better. And he's got some good players here, so let's hope he can make those better. Not necessarily the experienced ones, but the youngsters, the Joe Johnsons when he's back, the Zach Nelsons, the Jake Richards, and all of these that could be the future of our football club. From that point of view, he could be the ideal diamond to sort of get them playing the way that they can do.
Yeah, and the player you haven't mentioned there is obviously Walters probably played with it, under him at Arsenal, and I think that there is a player there, so perhaps if it is Wilshere and he comes in, perhaps that will sort our right back issue out and get him playing to his full potential. Because I know he was really highly thought of with Arsenal, and I don't think he's ever recaptured that form with us. But yeah, I think the primary, a manager's and their coach is meant to make players better. So if he can come in and improve each of our players just by small percentages, that will make us a better team. So I'm looking forward to that, seeing young players. You talk about Nelson, you've got Jack Richards, Morris, all these players have got potential to improve, and a lot more that I haven't mentioned. So a good coaching coming in and improving them can only improve us.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I mean, if he's still got his football boots, he'd probably get a game in midfield as well, wouldn't he? I mean, to be fair, if Steve Bould's still got his football boots, he'd probably get a game in our defence at the moment. The other thing, though, his contact list has got to be pretty vast, hasn't it? I mean, you just look at the clubs he's played for: Arsenal, Bournemouth, West Ham. So presumably he'll still have links there because he's only recently retired. He's only 3 years retired. Someplace in Denmark as well, Aarhus, I think it was. So he's got a good contact list. He's, as I said earlier, he's worked under some really, really good managers. Maybe one or two not so good ones, but some really, really good ones who presumably are still in the game. Well, Mikel Arteta's definitely still in the game, isn't he? We also have that link with Arteta, having got Lukonga a couple of years ago. So, if someone like Gyökeres wants to make his way down, I'm joking. Of course, he's not coming down on loan, but he will have a good contact list that come January, because he will want to bring his own players in, which manager doesn't. Could be an exciting transfer window in January.
Yeah, that's another tick in the pros list, isn't it? That will happen. I mean, we've pretty much had an overhaul of the entire squad in summer, and we're talking that we're going to have to change it again, and we will have to change it again. But hopefully, that experience bodes well that he can bring some decent players in that can do that. Whether we get the top level of the loan market because we're not Championship anymore, they'd have to drop down to League One. These are all things, again, sort of up in the air, don't it? We don't know. But, in the long term, if he can do the job, and they'll be positive, won't they? They'll say that, we want to go up still and use the man to lead us then. If they can get to the Championship, great. But you've got to deal with League One for now. And we've struggled. We've struggled in this division for a myriad of reasons, and he's got to try and fix those.
They will say that he's got to get promoted, but I refuse to believe that an England international who's played football at the highest level has come here to manage in League One for very long. That doesn't strike me as a career path of someone of that success as a player. He'll want to be coaching at the highest level ASAP, and he'll have looked at the squad, right? He'll have looked at recent performances, and he still wants the job, so that's got to be a positive. And he'll obviously think that there's potential there for us to take him where he wants to go, in much the same way as he can take us to where we want to go. So from that point of view, it does seem like a match made in heaven. When Nathan came in, it was pretty clear he wasn't coming in to be a League Two manager for very long. He had ideas above it, at the time, seemingly above his station. Certainly if you were on the outside not supporting Luton, you thought there were ideas above his station. And I suspect that Wilshere is going to have that as well. You don't get to the top level as a player in any sport without having that drive and that motivation and that almost arrogance that you can achieve anything. And if he can impart that onto the squad as well as the football club, and I'll come on to what he can do with the fan base in a moment, that can only be a good thing.
Well, the one thing, because we haven't got a lot of evidence to know what he can do in the dugout, we haven't seen enough of that. But one thing we have done, we've seen how he played and his playing style. Well, whether he can impart a bit of that would be gold, a little bit of stardust sprinkled on it. But I think more when he's spoken in interviews and stuff, he seems very assertive, very forthright and stuff like that. So when you combine that with his experience, I think you'll get the respect of the players, and they'll sit up and take notice. Certainly the ones that think they should be playing higher, probably. That will have that effect. And I don't think he's going to... There's this line, isn't it, that some people are sticking to, that Luton just get project managers or yes men, stuff like that. He doesn't strike me, not that I've got any evidence at all that the others were. It's just an accusation that people put forward. I've got no doubt that he wouldn't... I don't think he'll suffer fools gladly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely he won't. And do you know what? I hate this term project manager. I really do. He's just a very good young coach, and he's got all the credentials. As I say, he's come through one of the best academies in the game. And this time, the difference between him and Nathan, like Paul said, is this guy's got a playing record that if I'm a young footballer at this football club, I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, if I can't learn from this guy, I'm not going to learn from anyone. And that's a good thing. Paul, I just want to take the conversation on to Steve Bould, because I think if it is him as his assistant, I think that's equally as important as having Jack Wilshere himself, because Nathan had Paul Hart, didn't he? And prior to that, coaches have had Mick Harford around, and obviously Rob had Paul Trollope in amongst his coaching staff as well. So Steve Bould will be a big thing. I think we've both seen the video that's doing the rounds on social media of him taking training at QPR when he was mic'd up, and every second word is forward, which has immediately sold me, because that's all I want Luton to do is play forward. It gets right on my you-know-whats when we play backwards or square passes and things like that. But he's another one, isn't he, who's achieved so much in the game that although he'll be the bad cop to the good cop of Wilshere, people will look at him and they'll think, if I listen to him, I'm going to go where I want to go.
Yeah, I have seen that video, and I knew you'd like that playing forward. I just wanted him to say he was going to play 4 at the back. And
Oh, if he'd done that, I was giving him the job there and then, mate.
but there you go. But yeah, I think everything, I think there needs to be a good management team, and and I look at no disrespect to the team that Matt had, but Steve Bould was, comes with a pedigree of playing. He's gone to QPR, and I understand he's got a good rapport there with the players, and they know he's a bit of a disciplinarian, so that's always good to have somebody within the building who's going to do that. So just going back on Jack Wilshere, I mean, if you flip it a little bit, this is his first managerial job, and I'm sure he's had the chance to manage other clubs. I don't know that, but I'm sure he's had. So he must have looked at Luton, and a bit what you said earlier, he must think the squad, is good enough to perform how he wants it to perform. And he must have spoken to Gary in 2020 and know he's going to get the back in, whatever that is, in the January transfer window. So I think we can look at it as Luton fans, but we've got to think this is a young guy making his way in football. So I'm sure he's, asked the difficult questions to 2020 and got the right answers. So, I think we need to, and the partnership with Steve Bould seems to be the perfect partnership, really, a defender who knows how to defend and has got a good track record as a coach, and a younger midfield player who was, as you said, a star in the making.
And if Wilshere keeps players up from corners when we're defending them, you'll be equally as happy as I was that Steve Bould wants to play forward, won't you?
Yeah, I can guess who sent you that question in. But yeah, it's a pet hate of mine that, teams bring everybody back. So, at corners, you've got 20-odd players in the penalty area. So keep two up and I'll be on your side, Steve. All right.
So there you go. You want to get the fans on side, guys? That's how you do it. Leave a couple up from corners, play forward, and we're sold, aren't we? And we're all happy days. It is important, Jimbo, that they get fans on side, because the fan base, as I highlighted strongly last week, the fan base is apathetic. The fan base is in a negative mindset, a negative frame of mind. And whilst confidence is low on the pitch, there is a sort of down feeling off of it, really. Now, obviously, we'll all be lifted by a new manager, but a new manager of this caliber. However, I think back to what Nathan and Rob did to get us engaged, because Matt never did. And obviously, I was then thinking what Matt didn't do. Well, Nathan, when he came in, dreamt big, didn't he? He spoke big. I don't necessarily think Jack Wilshere is that kind of guy. I think he'll lead by actions rather than words. But what Rob didn't do was dampen expectation. Rob allowed us to dream and fulfilled those dreams very quickly. That's kind of where I see Jack Wilshere being. I mean, obviously you're going to be in a news conference in the not too distant. Well, we assume it'll be in the not too distant. We're kind of expecting this announcement to be made fairly early this week, because obviously we have got a game to prepare for on Saturday. I just wonder if in that news conference someone will ask him what his ambitions are, and maybe then he'll leak that, because like I say, I can't believe his ambitions are to coach in League One, and all of a sudden then just a few words will have everyone on board and eating out the palm of his hand, so to speak, and then all of a sudden it's full systems ahead to Saturday, and we're not going to games with our shoulders slumped. Oh my God, what are we going to watch this week? We're going there with hope, with optimism, and with maybe the expectation of things starting to improve. And as I said before, once you get everything aligned at this football club, it took John Still a while to do it, but once he'd done it, from Nathan straight away, boom, Rob straight away, boom. If you can get that in place straight away, It's almost like, I mean, James Shea said about 13 men. Well, we'll have 12 on the opposition on our side, won't we? Going up against those 13 men. Almost, it's levelling it out just straight away. I really do think how he performs in his first press conference, which will be the first press conference he's done as a manager anyway, as a full-time manager. Obviously, done a few at Norwich. Could really set the tone.
Yeah, it will be. It would be really important, and probably more so than the other ones that you mentioned there. That Nathan and Rob in particular, yeah, they did that and they set out their ambitions, but we're in a different place, a much different place. It was called the Championship at the time, and
Not when Nathan was here, it wasn't, though, was it? Nathan was in League Two, and he set his ambitions of getting into the Championship, which aligned with the 2020 ambitions. Well, 2020 have given their ambitions last week, 2 weeks ago, that they want to be promoted this season or minimum playoffs. So that they've told us, and again, fair play to them for telling us that, because that's what we've called for on this podcast. Now we want to hear what Jack's ambitions are. Does he think he can get us to the Championship this season, or when can we be realistically contending in the Championship, and those kind of things? Give us that journey and give us the flashpoints on that journey.
You're right. I was only thinking about Nathan Jones' second term when we were in the Championship, which, you know, he could only. We all thought we were doomed when he come in, and we were looking that way, and he pulled off the great escape. But we had that belief from what he had the first time around to do that, and then obviously when Edwards come in, and he said those words about dare to dream and all that stuff, and it captured everybody because we're in a different mindset. But I don't think you can underestimate sort of how far we've fallen. It's a big job for him to come in and do that, and maybe words won't be enough at this stage, but, you know, be an indication, obviously, but you kind of need that new manager bounce that Matt Bloomfield never got, because we were 8 games in, 10 games in before he got his first win and never got that. And it may not be the first game, because Edwards' first game was a defeat at Borough. But then it was the second game, and the manner of that victory over Norwich, which we talked about so many times, and the way that Corley Woodrow got that winner, and it sort of was the springboard. So it might not be the first game, but we need to see signs of improvement, obviously. But as long as it comes along relatively soon, then that will probably galvanise people anyway. I think there will be a lot of people that are excited about this, and you should be right to be excited about it, because it's a high profile of player, and we've seen the Lampards of this world go on and do well, and Gerrard for a bit at Rangers. But, you know, the other side of the coin is it could be a Rooney, and, you know, that hasn't gone well pretty much anyway. I mean, he did okay at Derby, I'll give him that, but you know, the expectations of him were a lot higher, so it can go either way, and we hope it goes the right way. Let's hope it's the positive side of it.
God, I hope you come out of his press conference an awful lot more positive than you're coming out of this podcast.
I just think it's right to have a healthy dose of optimism and skepticism about it. I want to just say out of the gate that he's going to be amazing just because his name's Jack Wilshere and he played for Arsenal. I don't think that will cut it with some people, but the way he goes about it, what he says is going to be important, but how he delivers it is ultimately the thing. Where everybody gave Matt Bloomfield a chance. I don't remember any sort of pretty negative chance in those 8 games where he struggled to get the first win. And then once he got it, and we looked like we were going to, you know, be safe or achieve a great escape, people were singing his name stuff. But this season, it just hasn't worked, and football can be like that. So I think everybody's sort of kind of scarred, understandably so, by the last 18 months and how far we've fallen. And if this is the turning point, great. You know, I have to see these things with my own eyes now, I think.
Fair enough. Let's wrap this up then, Paul, because we're going to send out a few podcasts this week, and obviously we'll react to Jack's first press conference. If indeed it is him, I should still stress it's not absolutely guaranteed. All the vibes are that it's him. But if indeed it is him, Jimbo and I will react to whoever it is when we preview the Mansfield game later in the week. But let's assume that it is Jack Wilshere. Paul, going into Saturday, what do you want to see from his team first of all, and what do you want to see from fans off the pitch as well? Because if we're going to get out of this league, we're going to have to get out of this league together. We've not got any of these 4 promotions that we've had recently being being dissected. We've all been united as one on and off the pitch. So what do you hope to see, and what would you encourage people to do going to the game on Saturday?
Okay, firstly, the team. I would like a Luton Town performance. What does that mean to me? It means that we're hard to score against, we're hard-working, we show passion, and we play on the front foot, so we actually create a few chances in open play. But I think the first thing is if we can tighten up at the back so we don't concede as many goals, because at the moment we'd have to score 3 or 4 to win. So stop the goals going into the back, and then if over the next few weeks, we can start seeing the attack come alive, because I'm sure we got good players there. But, if we can get a pattern of play where we can start being excited as fans. What I was asking the fans really is, I take on James' point about, expectations and that, but can we, give the team a lift? At the moment, I've been going to away games, Stevenage, Cambridge, last 2 examples where, the fans have shown their frustrations. Personally, I can never understand people shouting, "You're not fit to wear the shirt," because the next game you're going to expect that player to put 100% in and play well. But what I would ask is, I know people are frustrated, I know they're disappointed, but on Saturday, can we make the Kenny, the famous words, can we be the 12th man and give our team every encouragement to go out there and make it the team that we would be proud of? We can play our part, and I would just ask everyone on Saturday to get behind Jack Wilshere, or if it's somebody else, and the team on the pitch, and let's try and lift them and not be that crowd that actually reinforces their lack of confidence. So please come to the game, get behind the lads, and let's see if we can start our season on Saturday against Mansfield.
Because ultimately, whoever's in the dugout, we want to win the game, don't we? And, whether it's Wilshere, whether it's Wellens, whether it's my nan, whoever it is who's in the dugout, we want Luton Town to win the game of football, and more Luton wins, the quicker we get out of this league. And we all want out of this league, don't we? One of the reasons why this fan base is in a rut is because the football we're watching, not just from Luton, but the whole division, just ain't in keeping with what we've been watching in the last 5 or 6 years, is it? So the sooner we can come out of this league, and it will take everyone together. As I said, all 4 of those promotions, fans were on the back of the players, and we were all enjoying the ride. And if we can get to that stage, and as quickly as we can get to that stage, the better. That's pretty much it for this episode of the podcast. As I say, we was going to have Paul's views on the trust and on Solid and things like that. We will still do that. That'll come out later in the week. But there was a slightly more important topic to talk about, of course, with, genuinely strong vibes that Jack Wilshere is going to be the next manager of Luton Town. And indeed, by the time you watch this, there's every chance he actually will be confirmed as the next manager of Luton Town. Let us know what your thoughts are on Wilshere. Are you happy with it? Are you not so happy with it? Are you prepared to give him a go? Are you worried that it's the supposedly cheap option? Not that I expect someone of his qualities to come cheap anyway. Let us know what you think. And is he the man to take Luton Town back to the Championship and hopefully even further? Let us know in the comments, and we'll keep an eye on them. And we'll probably discuss them again when we come back to do the Mansfield preview later on in the week. Thanks to everyone who's been getting in touch throughout the times that we've been doing the podcasts in the last week or so. We really do appreciate it. Obviously, that last one was pretty hard for me in particular to record because, I don't like talking negatively about the football club, but obviously I sat there at Stevenage and couldn't dress that up in any other way. So really do appreciate all of your kind comments, particularly those of you that saw me at Cambridge and came up to me. It was much appreciated. Thanks, as always, to all of the folks at Marsh House, the proud new home of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast. Jimbo, they've got a fundraiser here, haven't they? A week on Saturday, the day that we play Northampton, which we're encouraging everyone to get behind because the place relies on goodwill and financial support.
And it's a great place as well. You need to come down here and see it for yourself. It's we feel very at home here, and we have done since the minute we walked in the door. It's a great place, and Luton needs to see it.
2 till 10 p.m. on the 25th of October for that. So if you are in the area and you haven't got a ticket to the Northampton game, we'd really appreciate you supporting this place. As Jimbo just said, we really do love it here, and we're made to feel very, very welcome. Thanks also to Sean Grant and the Wolfgang for our intro music. Until next time, where we'll look at the trust and Solid with Paul and Jimbo. From all of us here, come on, Jack, lead us back to where we want to be, mate.